of light has gone out in the universe. Worlds annihilated. Lanterns, we face an unprecedented danger. An enemy powerful enough to destroy entire civilizations. To fight this enemy, the Ring chose a human. But I don't need to tell you your duty.
Because it's a week in the summer, we have yet another comic book movie for you. This time it's Green Lantern. Are you ready for Ryan Reynolds' abs in 3D? I know I am. I'm Christy, and that, if on the 3-shot, or his own camera is fine too, is Ben. And that's Matt. Ben wants to talk about Green Lantern first, so go ahead.
The Green Lantern, Christy, is the story of the Green Lantern.
Let's roll a clip.
I'm sorry, hang on. It's the stupid story of the Green Lantern.
You're stupid.
I pledge allegiance to a lantern that I got from a dying purple alien.
So, this is the chosen human.
The ring turns thought into reality. Its limits are only what you can imagine.
The sword of human.
Is that what I think it is? An alien life form, Doctor.
The first that mankind has ever encountered.
Son, we're gonna get you well again.
I've never felt better in my life.
They said they wouldn't have chosen me if they didn't see something I don't see yet.
I see it. You had the ability to overcome fear.
Before Matt sets about his defense of the Green Lantern, and Alonso, by the way.
We should introduce Alonso.
We got 4 critics.
Behind the scenes.
We got 4 critics here.
It's the Alonso cam.
I would like to do a brief imitation of how I spent a great part of Green Lantern.
Okay. So please explain why this is supposed to be a good movie.
I'm not going to say it's a great movie. I didn't think it was that bad. And maybe my reaction is, it's like 20-something on the tomato meter. I don't think it's that bad. I actually thought it was okay. It's not great, don't get me wrong.
Were you a fan of Green Lantern going into this?
I'm not,
okay.
Actually. I'm not a big fan of Green Lanterns. I actually think that Green Lantern is one of the weaker characters in the classic DC pantheon. Like, everybody knows him from Super Friends, he's the guy with the ring.
I like the character, I think, and I like the movie. I didn't love it, I liked it. I think the problem here, though, is that they throw it so much exposition at you. They introduce so many characters and concepts. I mean, when Green Lantern began, there was not the Green Lantern Corps. There was not all this sort of backstory about all the other Green Lanterns around the universe. That was something that came about later in the comics. So for the first movie to throw at you Hal Jordan and his daddy issues, and Hector Hammond and his daddy issues, and the Green Lantern Corps, and Parallax, Sinestro, and Oa, and the Guardians. Yeah. It's like that's a lot. That's like Dune, where they should hand you a glossary on the way in.
And Carol Ferris.
And
her daddy issues. And
and the other thing they do, here's how much they throw in from the comic books that are things that, unless, I hardly got this. I actually looked it up to confirm my suspicion. Like, her call sign is Sapphire because Carol Ferris becomes
the
a
Star Sapphire, yes.
supervillain called Star Sapphire, who's
I'm so bored.
right. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
They're setting up a million sequels here, but they should have focused on this first movie. But I still liked it more than a lot of you guys did.
No, but there's no room for fun in cramming in all that.
Come on, he's jumping around with the ring, and he's like they're making the constructs and stuff.
What he makes with the ring is so lame. What he makes I'm gonna make a racetrack now. It's like I'm gonna make a thing over my head.
Right, but I thought it was funny that they one of the guys later gives him shit about that. He's like, that's the best one. Like, that's what he came up with.
And they set up the racetrack.
But he kept coming up with silly stuff, and it seemed.
Well, that's one of the things that
puffin stuff.
It occurred to me that what little I've read of the Green, especially kind of the Golden Age and Silver Age Green Lantern comics, like the stuff he comes up with on the page looks okay, but then I thought, when you translate that to the movie, it is going to look
boxing glove
silly.
And that sort of stuff is it's tricky to translate. They could have done more with it, but I didn't. I wasn't groaning much, which is sort of my new level of how to review a superhero movie. If I'm not like hitting my forehead with my hand constantly, I thought there were, like I said, there's too much exposition. There's a scene where Hal Jordan talks to the Guardians and tries to get them to save Earth, which is really bad. And the climax, is over really quickly. I thought for the big battle they're building up to, they zip through it pretty quick.
I don't know. I thought it worked. I actually didn't have a problem with that.
You know why you didn't have a problem with it? Because it was over quickly. Like, and I looked at it, it was like a minute 40, and I'm like, we haven't reached the climax yet. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, it took 8 minutes.
You know,
it was the best part of the movie.
The thing that's the villain looks like a giant evil piece of calamari. That's not scary.
It looks like a turd. I was gonna say.
I don't know.
It looked very turdy to me.
I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
I'm coming to get you.
I'm a piece of
You need to get me. You
squid.
need some dipping sauce.
It looks like seafood.
But all that said, I actually had a good time. I thought Ryan Reynolds was fun. I liked his sort of his down to earthness amidst all this crazy intergalactic hoo-ha that's going on.
And Ryan Reynolds can do so much more. I mean, he
I
can
think
be
he's
hilarious.
woefully miscasting
No, I
here.
think because he has to be, the brash, cocky
Yeah,
test
see, I
pilot, because
think-
it's like Top Gun. But he can do the cocky young Chevy Chase thing. I like that about him. He can do drama. The character's not developed at all to give him a chance to do anything.
But my take on this is I think that, now I will say that I kind of enjoyed the movie. Like, I wanted to see a guy with the ring flying around, making goofy green stuff. Like, that's about what I expected, and that's what I got, and it worked for me. It moved along nicely. It didn't get too deep. We're not doing something like the first Hulk movie where it's this psychodrama, and who gives a shit? It's it's a guy with the ring. He's as you and Alonso said before we started the show. It's kind of like Top Gun, right? Like, there's a lot of Top Gun in this movie. That
except
didn't bother
instead
me,
of
but-
Anthony Edwards, you got Blake Lively, and there's a moment there. First, I thought Ryan Reynolds was fairly charming, but there's a moment with Blake Lively, who's running the company, and she's like 11, and there's a line between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. He's like, you're a pilot too, and a damn good one. Dude,
Okay, but but wait.
She's a child.
Okay,
she's
but wait a minute.
child.
Wait a minute.
But they dye her
but
hair
wait,
brown to give her
wait.
like gravitas.
You'll buy the magic celestial ring,
Yeah,
but you won't buy the 22-year-old running the company.
Yeah, 22-year-old pilot, man. You got to go to pilot school, don't you? Don't you have to take some degree of training before you
grew up around that stuff.
You got to go to school. You can't get up in an airplane without going to school.
She was flying in the womb.
But that's the problem, because the idea was I did not know whether we were seeing sort of this nonsense comic book movie where you
Which is
suspend
exactly what we
disbelief.
got.
No, but then there's a bunch of the movie where we're supposed to sort of have some degree of grounded in reality when we're on Earth. And
I didn't get that at all.
now, I thought it was inconsistent and choppy and totally baffling and then you mentioned the stupid scene where he shows up and sort of defends Earth. It comes out of nowhere. Everything all the speeches came out of nowhere.
For me, it boils down to this. I had a much better time watching Green Lantern than I did watching Thor. So
no, Thor's more fun.
on that scale alone, this is I thought this was a better movie.
Can we really quickly mention Peter Sarsgaard, because he's like the nemesis. He's Hector.
Mm-hmm.
Although, how distractingly does he look like Eric Stoltz in Mask?
Yeah,
I kept looking at him like, who is that? But anyway, he's supposed to be like, and he's a great actor, and he makes really interesting choices all the time. He makes some dark, weird places here, and I like that, but that's about it.
My biggest problem with the movie, and maybe this is because I know, what I do know of the comics and as much of a comic fan I have, I took an issue with, as much as they're trying to cram stuff in from the comics, I felt like Ryan Reynolds is really miscast as Hal Jordan. And
who would
Alonso,
you cast?
I would cast somebody like maybe not Matt Damon, but someone like that. The original story with Hal Jordan is Eben Sur crashes on Earth and basically gives his ring to a Chuck Yeager type. And if you were casting someone to be kind of Chuck Yeager, it wouldn't be Ryan Reynolds, I don't think.
Yeah, Hal Jordan is not wacky. He does not have a sense of humor. He really is a fearless test pilot. But then that's kind of stiff, though. I could see where in the movie you want to give him a little
I get
something.
that. And the Green Lantern kind of mythos is a little bit weird. Like, ultimately, they're beat cops, right? Like, ultimately, they're cops that they've got a specific thing and that they do.
You mean all the Green Lanterns?
Like all the Green Lanterns. So ultimately,
the spatial Green Lanterns.
Ultimately, they're kind of just cops, and unless that kind of limits the story, because especially because they can't. I don't know. I'm probably going off on a weird tangent here. That Green Lantern story owes a lot to the classic Lensman stories written by E. Doc Smith, the kind of pulp fiction stories from way back, and those can get really weird.
Somebody needed to give you guys a ball when you were growing up.
And a life.
Whatever.
We should do numbers.
How many baseball cards do you have?
But those are worth
It's not
something.
important.
How many?
You know what?
How many?
Here's the thing.
How many?
No, it's not. There's a false equivalent. Those are cool. It's all those are cool.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
false equivalent.
fine.
False equivalent.
Can we do numbers? Can we do numbers and get out of here?
Yeah, real quick. What's the deal with the keepers? Don't those guys? Isn't that stolen from Star Trek? The Green Lantern Senate.
The guys
committee?
in red? No.
They don't look. Didn't they look the same as the keepers in the Star Trek series?
No, actually, those guys are drawn that way in the comics that you can kind of see their brains. I thought they did a good job with that.
All right, numbers. You liked it.
I liked it. I give it a 6.5. I'm janking the score up.
3, it's ugly, it's muddled, it's boring, the
it's not
3D
ugly.
adds nothing. I should be able to reach out and touch Ryan Reynolds' abs. That never happens.
Yeah, you should be. I didn't. He's a good-looking dude.
He's gorgeous. He's been to the gym.
Yeah, he's been to the gym. I gave it a 3.5. I felt like I went too high. Alonso?
I give it a 6.7. It's not a perfect film, but I enjoyed myself, and I stand by better than Thor.
Hang on, let me do those numbers real quick. 4.9. All right, Alonso did the
We don't like, well, we kind of like it. Depends on who you trust. Do you
No.
trust Matt and Alonso,
Trust
or
me.
do you trust me and Ben?
Below 5. Don't
Okay.
see it.
Ask yourself this.
Below 5.
All right, thanks. Bye.